Howdy ho, neighbor. There's this thing people do that's really, really stupid, but you're never immune to it. And what it is you'll start doing something to improve your life, and it'll work real good, and your life will improve. And then, because your life has improved, you think, what am I doing this for? I don't need to do this. My life's better now. I don't need to do this anymore. So you stop doing it. And your life goes back to the same shit that it was before. Because, amazingly, the thing you were doing was what fixed it. So, yeah. I stopped drinking as much water as I had been drinking. And it really is shocking how just getting enough water day after day makes a difference in your mood and your life. And just my routine, I had a routine and my routine was working really, really well and I was really happy. And then I went, I don't need to do this routine. I can do whatever I want. And then I did whatever I wanted and everything went straight back to shit, just the way it was. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I think I'm gonna go back to the routine and stick with the routine now. But more importantly, today is the end of an era, because Sketch Weekly is done. This is the last episode of Sketch Weekly. From this point onward, I'm going to be doing something else. I'm still going to be doing them on the same day, around the same schedule. It's not going to be called Sketch Weekly. And I'm not sure what exactly it's going to look like. Now, what I want it to look like, what I kind of intend for it to be, is over the course of the week, I paint something interesting, and then on the show, I talk about how I painted it and why I painted it that way and the actual techniques and brushes that I used and all of that stuff. And the idea there is I don't see a lot of that. I don't see a lot of people talking about how they do things. They give tips on how to do a particular thing, but they don't really say, hey, here's how I paint a brick wall. Here's how I paint a lake. Here's how I paint a grassy field. Nobody really goes into that. They'll show you this thing and they'll go, okay, well, here's the general process that I go through when painting a rock. And they won't tell you quite how they get the effects that they get. They'll say, now just add some texture to it. Well, how? How do you add texture to it? And what if you don't have this fancy brush set you're talking about? What if you can't get that fancy brush set for some reason? And I feel like that's an underserved community, because you really should be able to do most stuff with just the stock brushes in your software. I use Clip Studio Paint. So just the regular stock stuff in Clip Studio Paint should be good enough for you. And if it's not, you should use the brush engine to make your own custom brushes. So that's kind of the direction I'm leaning toward is, if I need a particular type of brush for a particular effect, well, I'm going to make that brush. And then when I come in here at the end of the week, I'll say, hey, I made this brush. Here's how I made it. And here's what I use it for. Because I feel like everybody has this, there's this shit that people do. Let me flip this up real quick. And there's this shit people do. I'm guilty of it myself. Because as I started out, I was like, hey, I want to do this art thing. So I need some pencils. I got myself this big box of pencils, and then I went, those are shitty pencils. Those are shitty cheap pencils. Those aren't good. I need some nice expensive pencils. That'd be good. I get some nice expensive ones. So I got those. Then I went, you know what? It would actually be better if I got mechanical pencils. Everybody that I see online, all of these YouTubers, they're using mechanical pencils. I should get some mechanical pencils. Mechanical pencils are good. I should get a bunch of them just to be sure. You know what? What I really need is a proper lead holder. A proper Stettler lead holder. And the fancy 2mm lead, obviously you need different kinds of lead for different purposes. And that needs, of course, the special sharpener. You got to use that special sharpener, the lead pointer, they call it. And of course, your eraser, we all have the standard, like, plastic eraser, sure, but you need to get one of these fancy kneaded erasers. Those are important. And you know what else you need? Is you need a good sketchbook. You need a good, proper sketchbook with good paper in it that you can draw shitty pictures in and pretend they're actually good. And then, you know what? You should get like a high-end compass so that you can draw circles and shit. And actually, you should make sure that you get like an ellipse template and like a circle template, French curves and shit, all of that kind of garbage. And you know what? If you're going to be drawing this stuff, then you need one of these fancy art model things that you can set up on your desk and pose, so that you have a good anatomical reference to work from. And you know what else you need is, all of this is geared toward the general idea of like drawing with pencils, but you should really ought to think about working in ink sometimes and get some pigment liners. You get some fine liner pens, and you got all of this stuff, and then you look at all of it and you put it all over the place, and you learn the little tricks like you take a playing card and you put it on your paper so that you don't smudge the graphite. But you have all of this stuff that you got. You have all of these things that you needed, that you had to have. And you went and you got all of them. And they didn't make you a better artist at all. And you go, you know what? I'm spending a lot of money on this stuff. You know what I need? I need a drawing tablet. And actually, now that I've got a drawing tablet, you know what I really need? I need a screen tablet. You can't just have like a regular old drawing tablet that sits on your desk. You got to get a screen tablet. And once you have that screen tablet, the problem you have then is that you may have a screen tablet, but you really ought to get a 4K screen tablet. That's what you need. You need the 4K right there. Okay? And 22 inches is not really that big, so you should get to 24. And you got all of this stuff and all of these things, and you look around, and you're $3,000 fucking dollars in the hole on this shit. And none of it's made you a better artist. Not to mention, the books. All the books, Burn Hogarth series, you got 6 of those. You got the whole, you got Marcos Matthew Mesters framed series here. You got Jack Ham's stuff. You got all of this stuff, how to draw landscapes, how to draw the hidden figure, how to draw animals. And you gotta buy all of this shit, and all of this shit is getting picked up there. And it's like, you know what? I really like the art they used to have in all the old Dungeons and Dragons manuals. So maybe I'll get myself a book of that art. Maybe I'll get myself a big proper anatomy reference. And you buy all of this stuff. You pick up all of these things. You get Mark Crilley's 2-pencil method. This is actually really good. And a lot of this stuff is really good. A lot of this stuff is really excellent. And, you know, you're also picking stuff up and you're like, oh, I want to learn to draw manga, so I'm going to get some high-end manga, some very popular stuff. You get all of these various things. You get classic comic books. You get the classics that everybody likes. You get the classics that go to a niche audience. And of course, you get some of the forgotten classics that nobody even remembers anymore. How many of you knew that Alien was a graphic novel like ever? From Heavy Metal magazine. You get all kinds of stuff like that. You get things like visual encyclopedias. You get all kinds of stuff with the fundamental idea of you're going to make the things that you want to make. Understanding Comics, Scott McCloud. That is a fantastic book. Everybody should read that book. And then, of course, I have my little library of Japanese shit. I have a bunch of those. You get live model references and that sort of thing. And you get all of this stuff, and you spend all of this money. And fundamentally, all you really needed to do is just fucking sit down and work. But there's always something in the way. There's always something you need to do. There's always the thing you have to do first. So you're stuck in this constant process of getting ready to get ready. And a lot of people just never get out of that, you know? They're stuck getting ready to get ready their whole lives. They're building this library of all of these books and this collection of all of this stuff. And none of it's actually helping them. None of it's actually making a difference in their ability to make the things they're trying to make. It's busy work is what it is. You're just picking up this stuff and going, oh, well, picking up this stuff is going to put me in a position where I can do the thing that I want to do. And it really doesn't. All of these things, all of this stuff that you get and you go, I need this so I can do it. I need this so I can do it. I need this so I can do it. And you get the stuff and you get the stuff and you get the stuff. And in the end, you didn't need the stuff. What you needed to do was to fucking sit down and practice. All you actually needed, like the only real thing that you needed was, you know what? It doesn't even have to be a fancy one. It doesn't even have to be anything fancy. All you need is a pad of paper. Doesn't have to be anything expensive. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just a plain old spiral-bound notebook. And that mechanical pencil will work just fine. So will these. So pencil with these. So that standard number 2 pencil that you have from your school days. And obviously you can use fancy Staedtler if you want. But that's all you actually need is just some paper and a pencil. That's it. That's all you needed. And all of that other stuff that you picked up, all those other things that you needed, you didn't need them. They didn't make anything easier, and they didn't make anything better. They just cost you money and gave you an excuse to waste time and not fucking practice. And we all do this kind of shit. We all just kind of let the idea of the stuff consume us instead of concentrating on using what we have, because the skills that we're building are applicable in every situation. If you can draw with a pencil, that nothing's going to get in your way if you turn around and draw with a pen, or if you turn around and draw with a stylus. You don't need the fancy little 2-finger glove that I wear. You don't need any of this fancy shit. But we keep getting it anyway, because that's how we are. That's how we're wired, is to think that the thing between us and what we want is a thing that can be bought and put on your desk or in your pocket. And when you have the thing, magically, it will all get easier. But it doesn't. It doesn't get easier at all. All you really need to do is just buckle in and do the fucking work. That's what's important. Do the work. A process of continuing improvement. If you're not familiar with Elihu Goldratt and the theory of constraints, it's a good thing to go look into. It will change the way you look at a lot of stuff. Also, you should also take a look at a lot of stuff from the engineering field. The Mythical Man Month is classic. There are a lot of things that will tell you how to alter your mindset. Brendan Burchard's Millionaire Messenger is another good one. Spend some time reading. And of course, I have my own shit that I put out back in the day. It's not on the market right now because I'm doing this art thing. I'm not allowed to sell business coaching right now. It would be, it would interfere with the art journey. So anyway, wow, I've just been rambling for 20 minutes. Anywho, as you can probably tell from the reference over here, I've been working on anatomy, specifically on the anatomy of the torso. There are a couple of things here that need to be brought in. One of them is I've done kind of some leg anatomy. You've got a muscle that comes down here, and a muscle that comes down here, and a muscle that comes down over here. But you've also got this muscle that wraps around, and because of the way that muscle wraps around and the way that muscle comes up and connects, okay? These kind of meld into each other. So you're looking at the front of the thigh. It kind of gives you that look right there. So you have this kind of little oval. Here's your thigh. There's that little oval. And you just kind of emphasize some parts of it and not others. You might just do that. There's also, underneath the leg, there's kind of the loin that comes across, and then you can see the butt cheek peeking out there. That's more evident on a woman because a guy has body parts that hang down over that. But one of the things that I've been looking at here is you sort of have this bowl of the pelvis right here. We're not going to go into a whole lot of detail about how this is shaped, but kind of swoops around here and swoops around here, and then in the back you get a little tailbone area. But we don't need to worry about any of that. The only thing we actually need to worry about is here's where the thighs are connected, right here. There's a little bowl in there called the acetabulum. It means vinegar cup. It's kind of wide and shallow. Like, it's like a tasting dish that you would use when cooking. But anyway, the thigh bone attaches there. And what you have here is you have this kind of skin that goes over that, and then you got muscle that comes out over here. And on a woman in particular, that has a kind of a divot to it. So it kind of comes out, dips in, and then comes back out again. And you got like, here's the bone underneath the skin, and here's the thigh bone, and this little divot right there. On a woman, that kind of dips in, whereas on a man, because of the angle is a little bit different. The thigh comes out from the pelvis a little bit farther, and because it comes out a little bit farther, the skin just goes straight over it. So you got kind of a divot there. You got kind of this cut. But, you know, kind of here's the belly. Here's the pelvis here. And on a man, you have this cut, and then that wraps straight down around. So it's pretty lean. Whereas on a woman, you still have that cut, but the thigh tends to be a little bit rounder because the bone is pushed in a little bit. So instead of the thigh being more or less straight up and down, it's really kind of angled inward. That's why a lot of artists draw women sort of knock-kneed. They got their knees together, they got one leg in front of the other, because they're exaggerating that Q angle right there. One of the other things that's been frustrating me over the course of the past week is a lot of people that are apparently going to work every day and don't know what they do. They don't understand what their job is. And I just kind of sit here and go, well, whatever you do at your job has to have value, If it didn't, they wouldn't pay you for it. They're not going to pay somebody to do something worthless. They're only going to pay you for something if it has value. So you should figure out what that value is, and you should make sure that you're delivering it. But if you tell people how to do a good job, they get mad at you. How dare you tell me how to do a good job? I know how to do a good job. I just don't do it because I don't get paid enough. And that's why you'll never get paid enough. Because you don't bother doing a good job. I used to be able to draw a fairly anatomically accurate pelvis. Now I don't even try. I'm looking a lot at knees over the course of the last week. Because a knee actually kind of has two parts. Kind of like a big boxy part up top and a little kind of tapery part down underneath of it. And you wrap the skin around that. And I've talked about this before, but the male calf has a bulge higher up, whereas the female calf, the curve in the tibia is not as pronounced, and the bulge is lower down on the muscle. That's your more feminine leg, which is not really a more feminine leg. It's a less athletic leg. If you've ever dated a dancer or a gymnast, their legs are fucking stacked. Like, they're incredible. It's just these massive, thick fucking things. One of the things that still kind of bakes my head, and I'm trying to figure out a good solution to this, is how do you go from the calf to the thigh accurately? I don't really know how to do that. Is that... It seems like that should be fairly simple, but I don't know how. You know, what can you do? I need to buckle in and do more practice. I need to do more studies. This knee thing, that's a study because I don't know what I'm doing. The calves, I do know what I'm doing. I just need to practice. The thighs, I do know what I'm doing. I just need to practice. Studies are for things you don't know how to do. Practice is for things you do know how to do. And of course, I've talked about this before, but spend some time with actual physical objects, actual things that you can draw. Drawing from life will teach you more than any amount of making shit up in your head. And when you're looking at anime or comics, anything like that, manga, it's important to know the difference between the stylized artwork that you're looking at and the reality of how the actual thing looks. But the only way to know that is to look at actual things. I don't know why I'm even talking about this. I don't know why I'm even talking at all. I'm here to make myself think about art for at least 20 minutes every single week. Never missing a week. I need to start never missing a Monday post on my Substack and never missing a Wednesday post of the other videos and never missing a Friday post of a time lapse. And then, of course, there's the Sunday morning. It's a church. It comes out on Sunday morning. It's church. That's not a bad idea. It's a church. It's a temple. It's a cathedral. Huh. Oh. I need to think about that more. There's definitely there's definitely something there for the new title of the show starting next week. I want to give it some cool, dark sounding name, something very cringy and teenage. Just because that's fun, you know? I mean, like 15-year-old Edge. That's the Terminal Chunibyo. Ooh, I like that. Terminal Chunibyo. Chunibyo Terminal. Definitely want to play with this some. I cannot help think it would be really cool to call it the Cathedral of Blood and Steel. That would be really cool. I like that idea. I don't think it's the right idea, but I do like it. I do like the idea. Huh. Something cultish. That would be neat. I don't know. I'm just over here free associating and thinking about stuff. This has got to be one of the most boring fucking streams I've ever done. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of fucking around. Choose a slightly larger brush. And this is the dual filbert. I don't want to use the dual filbert. I want to use my my standard horsehair brush. Let's just kind of paint over this. And we'll fill in this big, huge area. And then we'll just kind of clean it up. Clean that up and clean that up and fill in the last little bits there. No. All right, that's fairly clean. A little bit lighter and less saturated, and we'll go to our dry gouache copy. Actually, let's go to our clear gouache. Just kind of lighten that in the middle. We'll kind of tone that down. Let's give this kind of a and we'll take it down a little bit. We'll kind of darken it up here. Just kind of shade in this bit's away from the light. A little bit of jitter in the color actually does give it some solid texture. And what I'm doing here is I'm using the base color in the center of the area, and then I'm picking a lighter one to kind of go over the middle. So there's sort of a ring effect going on there. Let's go with straight dry gouache so we get the jitter out of it. And just kind of texturize a little here. Clean that up a bit. Clean that up a bit. So basically where it's lit, I go around the edges with a light color. And where it's in shadow, well there, go around the edges with a dark color. And I have the flat color kind of, if I go back to my horsehair brush, I start off with like the flat color, like so. And if I want that to be lit, then I'll come over to the dry gouache. I'll put a lighter color in the middle. And then I'll go much lighter, or much smaller. And I'll just kind of go around the edge. And I got this off a YouTube video somewhere. I don't remember whose it was. And then you blend that in, and that kind of looks more solid. Whereas if you come over here to the shaded side, you're going to do the exact opposite. You're going to go a little bit dark. You're going to go dark in the middle and just kind of blend it in. You go much smaller, and you'll line around the edge. And you just kind of fine-tune that. And that gives a fairly realistic lit texture to everything. I'm not very good at the technique, but it is an interesting technique. Anyway, that takes us close to the 45-minute mark. I didn't really do that much of a blowout on all of this to kind of close out the series. But, esse quam esse, it is what it is. So, yeah, I'm gonna do some kind of church or temple or cathedral themed thing starting next week, and we'll see how that goes. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit, and I will see you next week on the new show, whatever it's named, and that's basically it. Okay, bye.